Hi, Maria. Nice to see more S's from you. Let's take a look at what you wrote. The bar graph illustrates the sale of 2 varieties of shoes in different European countries in 2018. Don't forget your full stop here, please. As per the bar chart, the highest sales, plural, for black leather shoes were in Hungary, and for brown leather, it was Poland, with approximately 140,000 for the former and 135 for the latter. It is interesting to note that French and Polish citizens preferred brown leather shoes, no 4, twice, preferred brown leather shoes twice as much as black ones. Okay? However, comma, people from the UK, Hungary, Italy, and Belgium opted, ED, for black leather shoes. So the sales S of such shoes were higher in these countries. Okay. Notably, the number of black leather shoe sales S in Holland was less than those of brown leather. At just over 50,000 and nearly 80,000 in turn. Surprisingly, the sales of brown leather shoes S in Belgium was negligible compared with the black leather shoe sales S, which were around 5,000 and 105,000 respectively. Overall, the sales of brown leather shoes were higher in most of the countries under consideration. Hungary had the highest market for brown and black leather shoes. Okay, so the first thing that we have to make sure of is that you've included all of the key features in this graph. Now, the key features are basically all the categories. So while you mentioned in different European countries, we have to make sure that you've actually included all of the countries and mentioned them at least once by name. Okay, so I looked at the chart, and just by the way, it's really helpful if you can include it in your answer. Just copy and paste the image into your document so that I can refer to it while I'm correcting this. But I did find it, and there are 2 more countries that you didn't mention, specifically Germany and Ireland. So without mentioning those by name, at least just by name, like even if nothing else, you won't get higher than a 4 for task achievement. Yeah, I know. It's a huge basically penalty for this kind of thing. But if you think about it, it makes sense, because if you were presenting this information to somebody who didn't have the image in front of him or her, they would have an inaccurate representation of what you were actually looking at, because you're missing 2 important pieces of information without those 2 countries. Okay? So here's the graph. And while you might think, okay, well, there's nothing really exceptional to say about Germany, but in fact there is, because look, it's the second highest in terms of brown shoe sales, all right, with the same number as Hungary. Okay? And Ireland, I don't know. I mean, it got the same black shoe sales as Germany. So again, you didn't have to mention those details, but you had to mention them by name. Okay, so another thing, going back to your actual task, you had 18 pieces of information here. Obviously, you can't mention all 18, and you shouldn't mention them all. But I did feel like you could have given more data than you did. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of data. Now, here you mentioned something interesting that covered a lot of countries, but you didn't give me any data about it. So that also, I think, is a disadvantage here. Then, I gotta be honest with you, I wasn't entirely clear with the logic behind how you organized your data, okay? So I kind of get that you decided to talk about the high figures for black and brown here, and then here you talk about some of those lower numbers. But then I'm not really so sure about that either, because here you mention Belgium, right? Is it Belgium? Yeah, with 105. So going back to the chart itself, again, like I said, I didn't really understand your selection of data and why you chose those particular ones. So that's something that would be reflected in your coherence and cohesion score. So you're probably wondering, like, well, okay, what do I say here? What are the most important features to mention? There are a lot of ways to do this. There's not just one way to do this particular task one. One of the things that I have found very helpful in doing this kind of graph is grouping and using these numbers on the side to help me group. So, for example, you could have said something to the effect of 4 countries had shoe sales between 100 and 150,000 in 2018. Specifically, Hungary, and then you can mention those figures. It was followed by brown shoe sales in Poland, and then you can say this, and then you're done with that. Then you can talk about you can say, in contrast, only 2 countries had shoe sales of black and brown leather under 50,000. Specifically, France had this for black leather shoes and Belgium had this. Then you can say the remaining countries, and of course name them, all right, so that you make sure that you've included that key information. Say, had sales between 50 and 100,000. And then you can mention some of those data. You could perhaps say that, it looks like brown leather shoes were more popular in this range, in this category, than black. I mean, there are a lot of different things you can say. But I find that grouping information like this is really helpful. Okay, alternatively, you can split the chart by having one paragraph that talks about the black leather shoes and then another paragraph that talks about the brown leather shoes. Okay, so sorry about that. So that's some of my suggestions. Those are some of my suggestions on how you can do this. All right, so we spent quite a bit of time on your task 1, so let's move on to your task 2. This is the one about Olympics. Okay, careful with the grammar here. It should be the Olympics, and it even says it right here, the Olympics. So that's how you have to say it. Okay. The Olympics is one of the biggest sports events, no comma, where talented people from different parts of the world participate to exhibit their ability. Experts from developed and developing world have debated whether the Olympics is important, and I always say are because it's the Olympic Games. I know that the prompt up here says is. It really should be ours because it's games. So whether the Olympics are important or not in the 21st century. In this essay, both sides of the argument will be discussed using examples from the Swiss capital and Cambridge University capital to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, but what about your opinion? They didn't ask you to discuss both sides of the argument, even though, yes, of course you should, but they asked you to what extent do you agree or disagree, and you haven't told us that. It's important to do this in your introduction because this way you can ensure that your viewpoint is clear throughout the essay. And by throughout, I mean from the beginning to the end. All right, so moving on now. On one hand, the ample evidence to focus on the importance of continuing the Olympics is that the eagerness of different countries to participate and exhibit the talents of its citizen. All right, there are a number of problems with this sentence. Part of it is grammar, part of it is wrong word choice, so let's look at it. This is awkward, this whole section right here. So I would like to see that rewritten. On one hand, there is ample evidence to support continuing the Olympics. Or, how about this? Among the evidence to support the importance of continuing the Olympics is that there is eagerness of different countries to participate and exhibit the talents of their citizens, not its, and definitely not with an apostrophe. The reason for propagating the Olympics, propagating is the wrong word, is twofold. Firstly, it helps to develop a healthy relationship among various countries, irrespective of the state's economic status. Secondly, huge business deals are offered for the country when it is elected as a host for the next Olympics, no comma. For example, an empirical study conducted by the Swiss capital government demonstrated that nearly 50,000 million US dollars are invested by different business magnates, that's the wrong word, in the country where Olympics will be, no comma, to gain huge profit for their company. What? Invested in huge business. The Olympics will be hosted. Not really clear about that. Gain huge profit for the company. I mean, is the company getting money or the country? Invested by different magnates in the country to gain huge profits. All right, it's a little unclear. As a result, the host country may get a chance to prosper economically even after the event by maintaining good business deals. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that Olympics are relevant in the 21st century. Okay, this example wasn't totally clear, but more importantly, you didn't give any support for your first main idea. You only supported your second main idea. You had this first one about developing a healthy relationship among countries, but you never went into any detail about it. So you never told me how, you never told me why. I mean, so I'm missing some key information here, and it's not properly developed, okay? Each main idea should have a piece of support, okay? On the other hand, experts who opine that the Olympics, I'm not going to correct it again, it should just be the Olympics are no longer important, tend to say so because money that the host spent for the event could be a huge waste as soon as the event is finished. Consequently, the country can go into a pit of debt. Besides this, there is no visible profit for participating countries by conducting such kind of international events. For instance, an extensive study conducted by the University of Cambridge showed that in 2019, the economic status of Egypt remained the same even after participating and gaining medals for Olympics in 2016. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that Olympics are not important, or how about this, are no longer important in the 21st century. Okay, you talk about the country can go into a pit of debt, but can you give me some support for that? Again, it's another idea that you just kind of throw out there, but you don't support it with any sort of evidence. Okay, from the arguments and examples given, I firmly agree that although there is no profit for participating countries, and there may be massive loss, L-O-S-S, for the host country, the Olympics are still important in this century. This is because such events can develop healthy relationship among different countries, S, relationships, and host, and the host may get some benefit from this. It is anticipated that the authorities may not opt out of the Olympics in... It is anticipated that the authorities may not opt out Olympics in future, considering it as... I don't understand this sentence. I'm not really sure what you're trying to say, so I can't help you to fix it grammatically. Again, you mentioned some things in here in your conclusion that you didn't really support in your body paragraphs. So you didn't mention this thing about the healthy relationships, meaning not that you didn't mention it, you did mention it, but you didn't actually go into any detail about it. So it's surprising to see that you would include it in your conclusion. Okay, so that's that. Then the other thing that I really want to talk about here is the order of your paragraphs, which is inaccurate. What we do in these essays is we always talk about the side that we don't support first, and then we talk about the side that we do support. This is the proper organization of our paragraphs, and something like that would affect your coherence and cohesion score. So it's something else I want you to be aware of, okay? So that's a problem that you need to fix in this essay. as well as the fact that some of your main ideas were not supported by any sort of explanation, example, statistic, anything, okay? So every time you have a main idea, you have to include that. All right, go ahead and correct these. Also, watch out with your grammar, and I'll wait to see your next set of essays. Good luck.